Hey everybody, it's Professor Diffley. This is Philosophy 255, Ethics and Social Work Human Services. This is Chapter 8 of Lecture Video 3. So we left off the last video going over this Exemplar 8.1. So next slide here is Exemplar 8.2 on page 154. So take a look at this one real quick. This one's different again about family requests for information. As we're going to see, and as you read the chapter, you'll see there's some differences on how you do this, depending. Like if you're in a group situation, you're have an entire family, or even a couple, then you do things a little differently, right? When you have the intake, you guys talk about what is confidential, what's not. And that sort of thing. But here in 8.2, things are a little different. But you have a 12-year-old 8th grader who's 10 weeks pregnant. She's not saying who the father of the child is. The parents want to know the information. The child doesn't want the parents to know. Obviously, they will. They will find out she's pregnant. Obviously. And so the question then is, should they be told about the daughter's pregnancy now, or should she, should she know more about it? One of the issues here is that there's expected or suspected, child abuse, or that's what they think. Maybe it's a family issue, or someone else molested the girl here. When it's children, there's going to be, obviously it's different. You're dealing with a minor. There's going to be mandatory reporting, but how much the parents are due to be told is tough there, because the student is your client here more than anything else, and you need to be looking out for their best interest there. You're going to be a mandatory reporter, so you're going to have to report this to social services, most likely, because she is young. You have a suspicion that there is sexual abuse here, but you don't know who it is. These are really big charges here. So it's really ambiguous on what you're going to have to do, what you tell the parents there. I think you tell them at first what you're required to do, what is required of you, but again, it's going to be the least amount of information necessary. Again, in case like this, you're going to have to check in with your bosses, your supervisors, on what your legal obligations are and what you have to do. It is a very, very tough situation. It's not clear cut. But of course, remember, when you're a mandatory reporter and children involved, it's going to be a little different than dealing with an adult. But again, even with children, there's only so much that the parents are allowed to be privy to. They can come in to a doctor's office with the kid if they allow, but the child could refuse. So it is a tough situation to figure out on this one. But again, it's ambiguous. It's really going to depend on where you are, what the rules are, what the law is, and other things. And these are really hard to say, but just the point here is that just because they're the parents doesn't mean they get to know everything right away, or that you have to give them everything again. And that's going to create tension, but you have to, again, focus on who's your client, what duty do you owe them, what duties do you owe your parents, and remember the client's interests are first here. Focus on there. All right. So moving on, more confidentiality. Here we're going to look at insurance companies and third-party payers. What do we mean by a third-party payer? So it means someone else paying for the care bills. So this could be an employer or something like that. 107H, 1.07H, I'm sorry. Again, remember, everything's in section 1.07 when it comes to privacy and confidentiality for this. This is the text of the code here. Should not disclose confidential information to third-party payers unless clients have authorized such disclosure, right? So even if the company is required, you still need to go through getting informed consent from your clients. And what is that going to mean? Again, you need to tell them why they want the information, what information you're going to be giving out, and what any potential consequences of the information being given out are. And so, these companies are going to need it. Here's where you run into some of these dilemmas or sticky issues that we saw in the last chapter too, especially like a misdiagnosis or mercy diagnosis or overdiagnosing. and to ensure that a client gets coverage here. But again, you're not just don't give out the information. You still have to go through the client, get the informed consent. I would get it in writing, show them, tell them what is going to be disclosed, the purposes for it. And you got to go through all the consequences and get their permission. Obviously, and you need to tell the client there, if they don't want you to send any information to the insurance company, well, I mean, we all know what that's going to mean then is they're not going to get the coverage. So this is a balancing act. But again, just because the insurance company or third-party payer requests it doesn't mean you have to give it up, that information right away. They have to, your clients have to authorize such disclosures there. Again, some more issues with confidentiality. Now we're dealing with electronic and records and communications. Again, 1.07 here, L. You have to, you have to protect the confidentiality of your records is really what this is about there. So that means if you have, say, if you're keeping paper notes, obviously, you have to keep them sort of under lock and key, right? Just don't leave them laying about. Try not to lose them. It's harder with electronic records, right? And this, the best practice. If you work for an agency, they'll have servers with encrypted. Hopefully, they'll have servers with encryption on them. Things like that. We talked about this before. One of the issues here really is that digital records like this, there are significant securities that you can place on them, but they're not foolproof, right? They can fail, but you really do have to protect them in any form in which they are. And that also means when you're sending information, right? You're not supposed to send it just over any email, and sometimes you're not supposed to send it fax. It's actually still, even though it's somewhat outdated, many would say. I mean, when was the last time you used a fax machine? It is still pretty secure, and so some information is sent that way. You may have encountered this, say, if you go to a doctor, a primary care doctor, things like that. Sometimes they have secure portals where you can get your information. They won't just email you the information, like your records, even if you request it and you give them permission, they're still on the hook with HIPAA and other things, because that stuff can easily be hacked or intercepted and that. So hopefully the agency you work for, or organization you work for, will have people who specialize in this. This is really difficult on people who are going to open their own shop, so to speak, or be independent social workers and that. There's a lot of legwork goes into it. You're going to have to hire outside contractors to ensure that your records are safe. Your servers, where you store them, how you store them. It can get expensive as well. But again, most people are going to end up working for some sort of agency, company, organization, and they will have this there. But you got to remember, you can't just be sending this information out however you like. You also got to be wary, and I mean, this is just good practice for your own, right, is there's lots of hotspots and Wi-Fi hotspots out there and things like that. Those can be security risks, right? You shouldn't be using those for all the time for really confidential stuff you wouldn't want to get out there. So just something to be aware of. Just because you have it on your phone or you have it on a computer doesn't mean you got to be aware of what you're plugging into, where you're sending it, how you're sending it, what tools, right? I mean, even here at in my line of work, teaching, if we're going to send student information, there's only certain information we can send around, to different departments, or even to students. Say if I have your program eval, I have to send it. I can send it to you and that information to your stick email, right, to your school email, but I can't do it to a personal email. Why? Excuse me. The reason is it's unverified. I mean, reality, anybody could have hacked in and said, oh, send me the information to this outside email. At least with the stick one, this is why we require you to use it, or any college requires you to use it, as it's verified, it's in their system. Don't be using personal email accounts, that sort of thing. So you really, really got to be careful about this. But I think more and more people are understanding this, of the limitations of security and some of the risks that there are in with digital records and things like that. And again, this is what it's talking about. Take these reasonable steps. Stored in secure location. And this is what I meant by just don't leave notebooks or notes out, things like that. If you have a backup hard drive, you want to keep them in safes, things like that, where they are. Just don't leave them in a drawer somewhere in your car where someone could get them. That's what I really do. And that would be negligence, right? If you left them in your car, you left them out at work. Accidents happen, but still got to be very, very aware of this, and really work to make sure all this is protected. And again, this is what we're talking about here. So protecting client confidential info, 1.07M. Again, reasonable steps. We just talked about that. Including information provided to clients or third parties. That's kind of what I talked about in the last one. And again, the safeguards here, encryption, firewalls, passwords, and all that. Again, hopefully the agencies you work for will, and they will, they'll specify what you can and cannot use, as I was talking about before. The real struggle here is going to be if you're trying to run your own shop, so to speak. Then you're going to have to deal with this. At large agencies, they have people, IT specialists and all that. And so hopefully they'll have good best practices and have this all secure, and they'll show you what to do. But again, that is the hope here. Again, confidentiality, social media, professional websites. Again, this one should be obvious. And this says R here in parentheses. That's 1.07, section 1.07, subsection R. Avoid posting any identifying information about clients on professional websites or other social media, right? Professional websites would be like like an association that you belong to, a professional association, things like that. But as you see in some of the reading, they gave you the articles, it's even if you don't post it, you can make mistakes. One of the examples is someone is stuck home in a snowstorm and makes a social media post of them working, despite the snow, and they're still home, but they're at their desk at home on their computer, interacting with clients and doing their job. And they took a selfie of themselves, but they did it with their back to the monitor. Well, in that selfie that they then posted to social media, you could see all the client's information. Now, did the person intend to act, to break confidentiality? Did they intend to act unethically? No, of course not. They made a mistake, but it don't matter. It does not matter. I'm sorry. It does not matter. Why not? They still put the information out there. They can still be sanctioned, still malpractice. Good rule of thumb, don't be taking selfies of yourself with your client work. Be wary of what's on in the background, what you have in the background when you do things like that. Just avoid it altogether. Another one of the examples was someone made a post and tagged themselves at a location, and it happened to be a courthouse. For child, a juvenile court. But based on what they said and the location, the times, you could figure out who this client was, right? Because there are dockets, there's court records, that sort of thing. So anybody, which is public, a lot of this, people could figure it out. Again, they were just excited. Do they intend to act unethically? Do they intend to disclose all this? No. But it doesn't matter. You have to be very, very careful when it comes to this and what you do. We are often, we all are. We can have lapses. We can be, just not careful enough. So really think through it. I say just avoid it altogether, right? Don't be using social media to talk about your clients in any way. You're not supposed to. And that's also this, right? Searching for client info online. Short answer is don't do it. Don't go Googling your clients. You really should not be doing that at all. And there's, unless there's compelling professional reasons, or with their informed consent. It's hard to find compelling professional reasons for this, in my book, in my view of it. And, you can get the client's consent, but I just, you're not supposed to be Googling them. You're not supposed to be stalking them, so to speak, trying to friend them on social media, any of that. Why? And this is 1.07, subsection Q. It's confidential, right? In the sense, it's privacy. They've decided not to share it with you. You might not necessarily have access to their information there. So we need to be careful. All right. We're actually going to pick up on this, in, video 4. Right back.